What's going on, guys? Welcome to the weekly technicals video for September 9th, and we are going to look at the economic calendar here first, and then we'll go over the technicals and all the majors for this week. So looking at the economic calendar for Monday, we do have... What's going on, guys? Welcome to the weekly technicals video for September 9th, and we are going to look Hold up, guys. Give me 1 second. Can you guys hear me okay still? Because I had to mute my computer, so post in the chat box if you can hear me still. I may have to restart the stream if it is like playing back. Let me know if the audio is okay. Okay, alright, cool. Thanks, guys. Sweet. So looking at the economic calendar, we have GBP news for 1:30 a.m. so during London session Monday, so that'll be later on tonight. And Tuesday we have more GBP news. Wednesday for New York session we have a good bit of dollar index news, so no FOMC. These are just speakers for FOMC, so this isn't any type of FOMC event, so that's we can still trade all these days. GBP again, late London session, we've got some more news on Thursday, so we got a good bit of high impact news this week. We got CPI and core CPI for dollar index Thursday. So to be honest, guys, I think in terms of economic calendar, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday all look like decent days. There's nothing on the economic calendar that I want to stay away from. So all of these are just extra opportunities for us to have more volatility within the markets. So with all of that being said, let's go ahead and jump to the charts now. And we're going to start off with dollar index. I actually want to look at a weekly perspective first. Okay, so in terms of a weekly perspective on dollar index, we still are holding bullish market structure. So all I mean by that is we haven't made a lower low, so we haven't gotten below like 93.80 or 94 big figure, which would indicate a break in market structure overall. But as you could see, the past 2 weeks we've kind of like formed this higher low point. Ultimately, I don't see this as being strength in the dollar index yet, because if we drop down to a daily and we take a look at this, you can see that we've got a high and then we've got a low, which came lower than this low. So we've got basically a lower low internally within the market. So if the divergence was out here, so say we had a lower low that was below this low, then it would be like considered, I think they call it external divergence, and then this would be like internal divergence. But basically, whenever you look at this and you see a lower low, you know, I essentially consider this a break in market structure. So whenever I see this lower low, I'm kind of thinking, okay, so we've got a market structure break now on the daily. Then we retraced a bit, formed a high. It's a lower high. And then we've traded lower, making a lower low lower than this low. So now we've got a lower low down there. In comparison to that previous low here. Then we came all the way back up, we cleared out the stops here, and then we started to trade lower again. So if you look at it on a daily perspective, Friday we did have a bit of a push up. So I'm interested to see what we do when the market opens. Preferably, I'd like to see immediate weakness. So I'd like to see the market open and then just see us start trading lower immediately if we're going to continue bearish and clear out the liquidity below all of these lows here, 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 and then ultimately the equal lows back here. So if we get back above 95.60 to 95.65, so ultimately these highs in here, if we get back above that on a daily time frame and close above there, I think we're going to potentially get higher prices, because at that point we would have a strong bullish direction, in my opinion, because a bullish directional analysis, because we would be back above these highs, and at that point I would see this as, okay, so the market traded up, we've made a higher high, traded back down, found support at the 50% level, came up. This is essentially the first quote-unquote break in market structure, if we're going to consider this, but since it's just a wick, I don't typically consider that. That's why I'm saying if we get back above and close above here, then I'll look at this piece of price action here a little bit. It would be more bullish to me. Okay, but I don't necessarily see it as bullish yet, but we do have to take into account that we do have this low that formed at the 50% level of this daily order block, and then we have a higher low that was formed here. So if we do make a higher high at that point, we would have bullish market structure on a daily perspective, and I think if that's the case, we're going to go back above 97 big figure, or at least come up here and hit 97 big figure. So I'm going to need, at least the market open and get a little bit of price action to unfold so I could see a little clearer of what we're going to do. And unless there's a really clear setup on Monday, I'll take it, but preferably I'd like to wait till Tuesday, let Monday close and see where dollar index is, and that'll give me a much better analysis. But nonetheless, I think it's going to be a great week, and we'll see some nice clear price action. But dollar index is a little trapped in this range here, so I want to see, do we have a piece of bullish price action forming, or are we just kind of trapping buyers in here and we're ultimately going to drop it lower? So if you come down to a 4-hour, one thing that I made note of is we are within this 4-hour ICT bearish order block. So this up candle before we had this big down move, this is an ICT bullish order block. If you map out 50% of that candle, you can see that we've wicked through that, but ultimately closed below it. And you can see it a lot clearer on an hourly basis. So initially we wick through it, come back up. You can notice the bodies find resistance right at that, and then we sell off. So one thing that I'm looking at is this, right? So we've traded lower off of a key resistance level based on a 4-hour time frame. Overall, I'm still expecting bearishness, like I said, until we get back above those daily highs and close above them. As long as we remain where we're at, though, I think we're going to get continued weakness. So I'm not even worried about this ICT bullish order block or anything. I just would expect lower prices from here if this has in fact found resistance. So I don't see dollar index needing to trade any higher. That's why I'm saying if we get back above 95.60, above these daily highs back here, then I have to switch my idea to bullish. At the current moment and where we're at within price action, there should be no reason for this market to have to trade any higher. So that's why I'm saying ideally I want the market to open this week. So 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, I want to see the market open and immediately start trading lower. We have done everything we've needed to do in terms of if the bearish setup is valid, we've done everything we need to do in terms of it to be good and an actual valid trade. Because if you look and we take our fib and we draw our fib from here down to the low, you can see this 70.5 level lines right up with the 50% level. So just notice the price action that we've got within that level. It's at a key level. It's there's multiple things lining up with it, and we've also got this 2 up candles, big sell-off. So now we've got a 1-hour ICT bearish order block here. So the market could open up, retest 95.40-ish to 90. Yeah, preferably 95.40, which would be like 50% of this in terms of the max level it should go to before seeing weakness. So I would like to see this market, like I said, initially just pretty much open up, and I want to see us start trading lower. So it could trade up, find some resistance there, but ultimately, I mean, that's 5 or 6 pips, so that should happen relatively quickly. And I'd like to just see continued weakness from there. So With that being said, and now if we get back above those daily highs, then I'll have to, again, like I said, switch my direction, and we will have to move to a bullish stance on dollar index and a bearish stance on foreign currency. But again, at the current state of the market, I am bearish dollar index, bullish foreign currency. So if we move over to euro dollar now, pretty much the exact opposite of what we have in dollar index right now. So we're pretty much trapped in this consolidation. I want you guys to notice though what we've left here was Tuesday's low, I believe. Friday, Thursday, Wednesday, Tuesday. Yeah. So this was Tuesday's low. It came down to 1530, also making equal lows with this previous low back here. So they've got some equal lows, and based on Friday's candle, it seems like they're just gonna poke it below here. So initially, once this market opens, they'll probably take it lower a bit, clear out these equal lows. But I'd like to see them, clear out those equal lows and reject. I don't want to see them like continue lower. But if they do continue lower, I would expect some level of support to be found at this ICT bullish order block down here. Ideal scenario though, this is why I'm more than likely going to wait for Monday's trading to go through, because I want to see what we do. If we get below here, close below here, and it doesn't look like we're going to show any rejection, then again, and dollar index is doing the inverse of that, we're going to have to move to a bearish stance on foreign currency. And we should have that pretty much figured out by tomorrow, Monday, and we'll be able to go from there. And of course, I'll update you guys, with the daily technicals and also in the group what we're going to do specifically based on the price action that we get. But again, I don't want to switch my stance to bearish on foreign currency just yet, especially on euro dollar at least, because there is so much liquidity built up above here. I do not see them wanting to go back below this low before coming and clearing this out. So I'm kind of seeing this as a potential turtle soup scenario, right? They can run below these equal lows, gather some orders, and then bring it above here, and ultimately, make the real move, which would be a bullish move. But they've got a lot of, and they're trapping a lot of traders right now. So I think if they break below these equal lows, they'll get a lot of retail traders thinking, oh, it's broke out, it's going to trade lower, all that stuff. But ultimately, I'd like to see them reject that and push higher. So that's pretty much what I'm looking at for euro dollar. So it's not necessarily the clearest right now, but again, this is kind of one of those things that you learn with experience, right? Those turtle soup setups. This is how you start to formulate the idea that they could potentially be unfolding. There is no key level or anything right underneath the equal lows, which I would prefer. So we do have this order block here on a 4-hour basis, and that could be the quote-unquote key level that they use below the equal lows to find support at. So we'll keep an eye on that. I'll actually mark the 50% out real quick, which comes in at 1518. So we'll take our trend line, draw it across, change it to 1518, and I'm going to turn on my visibility for, so whenever you guys see me do this, I'm just adjusting it so it'll only show on the charts from 4 hours down to 1 hour and 1 hour down to minutes, because I don't want to see every single line that may be a 4-hour level on my daily chart. So just for you guys that may be wondering why I do that, that's the reason. So just like now, for example, this dotted line won't be on my daily chart. It'll only be on the charts 4-hour and lower. So that could be the level that they use as support, which is 1.1518 again. So 1515 to 1520, around there, I would expect some support to come in. But if we get below this low here, then, again, like I said, we have to assume that we're going to trade back down into 1400s, 1420s, and find some support within this consolidation we've got back here. Which, if you also draw our fibs on this swing, we've got the 70.5 level lining directly over the daily ICT bullish order block high, which is this high here. And if you go out to a daily time frame, it's a daily ICT bullish order block. It's this big down move here. This is the high, this is the open, and this is the 50% level. As you can see, once we broke above it here, we initially retested it, which was back on August 20th. But ultimately, now that we've got some liquidity built up below the market, not nearly as much as I think we've got built above the market, but if they do make a move lower than this order block, then I would expect them to trade into these levels here. Which, you know, like I said, it doesn't really concern me what they're going to do specifically, because no matter what, we can find a trade. Because if you look from this level here up to this low, that's 76 pips. So even if we do break that low, like basically this is how I would play it, right? So if we break this low, let me take the fibs off so it doesn't confuse you guys. All right, you see this line here? Let me actually make it a different color so you could see it. All right, so we got the green line. If we break below the green line, which would invalidate my bullish idea, right? Because we'd be below the 50% level and we would have broken structure. So at that point, I would, you know, basically say, okay, I don't want to buy euro dollar at the moment. It's just going to consolidate or trade lower. Now, if dollar index sets up with it, you know, we can look to trade off of this level, because at that point we would be what? Broken structure, retest as what? Resistance, right? So old support now becomes what? New resistance. So we could sell it on the retest of that down into this level and capture about 80 pips or so, from like 1480 to 1400. Okay, so I don't care if it does find support here or not, because at that point I'll know that this is the scenario I'll be looking for. And that's how you're able to prepare for both sides of the market, right? You have to always go into the market having an invalidation level. So what is the last level you see? All right, Vern, take it easy, man. What is the last level you see the market actually trading down to, or the lowest you would, in a bullish scenario, what's the lowest you see the market wanting to go? In a bearish scenario, what's the highest you see the market wanting to go? So if you noticed on dollar index, I said the dollar is basically the highest I would want to see it go. So I wouldn't expect dollar index to push any higher if it's going to remain bearish. Okay? So same thing goes for euro dollar. This level, the 50% level of this bullish order block, is basically the last level I would want to see the market trade into for bullishness. If we get below that, then I have to assume this will be a bearish market for a bit. Okay, so let's move out to Gbpusd now. So as you like, pretty much we're holding consolidations with all these pairs. If you guys haven't noticed, like this common theme among everything we've looked at so far. But the good thing about all this is we're pretty much in fall now. So the moves that are in the near future, the next coming weeks, they're gonna be big moves. Anytime we're in a consolidation, just notice consolidation, big move. Consolidation, big move up, big move down. Doesn't matter which way. Don't care, but during the fall, you will see the markets be a lot more active. Just this week alone, you'll see a lot more activity in the markets. We're not gonna, in my personal opinion, I do not think that we're gonna consolidate like we did last week with the markets this week. I think we're gonna have a big, maybe not huge, but a big trending week. You know, a decent, nice week. Okay, so with that being said, let's look at Gbpusd now. So again, we've already, you know, identified we're pretty much in a consolidation. Now, something I do like is let's really analyze the consolidation, right? So we've got an ICT bullish order block, we've got the open mark mapped out, and we've got the 50% mapped out, and then we've got the low mapped out. Okay. The market initially pushed up. Once we closed above it, that validated this down candle as an ICT bullish order block. Market trades lower, Sunday we gapped down into the 50% level. We noted that early on last week, and then we closed below it here, ultimately traded lower a bit. Next candle, there was a lot of news that we had with British pound or something. I think this was that big range day that we had on British pound. So we opened up and we sold off. We cleared out the low below here, so turtle soup opportunity here. So the stops below here have now been cleared. So cleared, right? Checked off. So now we don't need this level or these because we've done it already. We've done what we needed to do. So now the market's pushed up. We've closed back above this ICT daily bullish order block. Now this ugly wick in here is just due to NFP. You know, I don't like the way that looks personally. Leslie, I'll go over turtle soup at the end. So the fact that we're above the daily ICT bullish order block, I would assume and expect them to find support here and then start to push higher. So although this is a lower high, I'm kind of seeing this as relatively equal highs above here. So I'd like to see this market start pushing up. Now this could have more movement to the upside than euro dollar. I don't see that being the case yet, but euro dollar has had significant more movement in my opinion than what we've seen in British pound. So they could hold euro dollar in a consolidation for a bit and start to push this thing higher. So I'm interested to see, again, market open. I want to see them ideally find some support here and start trading higher. I think this big long wick is just kind of like a retail trap, getting a bunch of people selling short because they think it's found resistance. But personally, I'm seeing it as right above support, and I would expect it to find support and trade higher. Again, we'll have to see what we get market open, and most likely I'll let Monday's trading go through before I look to actually take a setup, because generally I like to trade Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Okay, so real quick, Leslie, to answer your question, turtle soup, I did mention this in the last weekly technicals, but you just joined us recently, so I'm sure you probably haven't gone through that. Turtle soup is just a concept or a setup that I think it came from Larry Williams, but I was taught it by ICT, my mentor. And basically all it is just a run on liquidity. So we have a low here where there's stops built up. So anytime there's a low or high, there's people who bought the market at a low and there's people who sold the market at a high, and they typically place their stop losses or trail them above each high or each low. So you can tell that there's liquidity below a low based on if it's a swing low or not. So this is in fact a swing low. You can tell based on the 3 candles. We've got a low and 2 candles on each side that close higher than it. And what the market did is it traded below it into a daily order block and pushed up. So to answer your question, Leslie, what a turtle soup is just a run on liquidity and a rejection. So typically retail traders would see this trade below here as a breakout or anything like that on a lower time frame. But we look at this as a turtle soup setup or opportunity. Not particularly my setup, because I like to work off of ICT bullish and bearish order blocks, but this is in fact a potential trading setup where you would look for, so basically anytime the market runs an old low, you would look to buy it. Anytime it runs an old high, you would look to sell it. And of course that style of trading takes a lot of confidence and experience, because you have to get comfortable selling above an old high where most people are buying, and buying below an old low where most people are selling. So it could be confusing, and it's definitely something that's going to take more experience, but I just kind of formulate the ideas into my trading. I don't specifically act on those setups. But I hope that answers your question, Leslie, because that's what a turtle soup is. Sweet. Cool. So GBPUSD, I am expecting strength. Now, if we get below the 50% level, which is 1.2860, then at that point I'm going to be looking for lower prices below below here, which is at 1.28 big figure. So as long as we hold support, whether that be at this open or the 50% level, it can trade down here again. I'd prefer it not do that and find support at this open. But again, that's why we're going to let Monday's trading finish and see what we get. Ultimately, I want to see this market start trading higher though. Let's see if there's anything to talk about on a lower time frame though. So 4-hour ICT bullish order block perfectly lines up with the 50% level of the daily order block. Interesting little note. Yeah, so the 50% level, like I said, we could come back down to that 28.60 level because there's a lot of confluence based around that level, and they've got some liquidity built up below these lows in here. So Monday, I'd like to see this market, initially start just trading lower, but ultimately find some support at this 28.60 level, and get a little bounce, show us some bullish price action, form a high, come back down, form a higher low, break market structure, form a higher high, and if we get that, then and it's during an optimal trading time, which would be London or New York session, I'd look to buy it at the point of this. Okay, so that's where I'd look to buy it. And again, it may not be this specific price level, but I want to see this type of price action because I know we had a few new people join us this week. So just so you guys know, like whenever we hit a higher time frame support or resistance, I want to see the market prove to me that it's holding that level. And when I say prove to me, this is what I mean. Form a low there, trade up, show me some strength. Don't make a lower low, make a higher low. Make a higher high, retest this as which would typically be an ICT bullish order block or break of structure retest, and we could buy it and look for higher prices. So that's what I'm going to be looking for in British pound. So have those levels on your chart, keep an eye out for those specific things I talked about, and of course I'll update you guys in the Telegram group as I take any trades. But just so you have an idea, that's what I'll be looking for. Now Euro GBP, we are back within this nasty consolidation again. So we had a beautiful move up, but ultimately came back down. Found a bit of support at the daily order block, but again came back up, found some resistance, and we sold off again. So I think Euro USD and GBP USD will both be able to move equally since this pair is pretty much back in consolidation, which is good because I like when we can, for example, I like when we can buy both Euro USD and GBP USD. Not specifically take a trade on both, but I like when there's opportunity for both of those pairs to be moving in sync with one another. But if Euro GBP is like trending up, for example, or trending lower, aggressively, when it's in a consolidation, typically the two majors, Euro USD and GBP USD, could do whatever they want in sync with the dollar index. But whenever the market is pushing up aggressively and it breaks out the consolidation, you'll see a lot more strength in whichever direction the market's moving. So since we broke out of the consolidation with a bullish trend, we've seen a lot more strength in Euro dollar versus GBP USD. So now that we're back in a consolidation again, I kind of think that Euro USD and GBP USD will both be able to either move lower in sync with the dollar index moving higher, or move higher in sync with the dollar index moving lower. So again, I want to wait for like Monday ideally, or at least London session, and get some price action under our belt so we can see more clear if we are going to in fact get further weakness for dollar index and further strength for foreign currency, or are we going to have to switch our idea to bullish dollar index and bearish foreign currency. So Euro GBP, nothing really else to talk about other than the fact that we are within this consolidation again, and because of that, I think we'll be able to get equal moves on both Euro USD and GBP USD. So we'll basically be able to pick which one we want to trade, whichever one would be clear at the time. Okay, dollar yen, this thing has been just doing a bunch of nothing in my opinion. We've just been consolidating for a while now, so the good thing about this is, it's going to lead to some big moves. So dollar yen, I think, will have some explosive moves, whether that be to the downside or to the upside in the next coming weeks, because we've been in such a big consolidation. Now, my personal opinion, if we do get weakness on dollar index and we continue to make lower lows and lower highs, I would expect lower prices to run below 109.80 and below this low at 109.40. Now, if we get back above the basically 111.60 level, which would pretty much take us above here and here, I think for sure we'll go for 112.20 and potentially back above the 113s up here. Only if we close back above the 111.60 level. But we technically have these two candles here, which once we've closed below it, validates it as an ICT bearish order block. So one thing I want to do with you guys real quick is mark out the 50% level of those two candles, because again, we use that as the maximum level of resistance or maximum level of support where we would expect the market to trade to before changing direction. So we've got this all set. All right. So the 50% level comes in at 111.28, and the high on Friday came in at 111.24, so about 4 pips shy of it. But ultimately, I see them coming back up and hitting this level if they are going to take this thing lower. Now, if they close above it and get back above 111.60, again, like I said, we have to switch our idea and assume they're going to run this high back here at 112.20. As long as they remain below here, expect 109.80 as the next target for the downside. Okay. Australian dollar, we had a sell-off in this thing. Alright, so as you can see, this is a weekly time frame, so I just went out to a weekly perspective just to take a little bit of a clearer look at this. So we've got relatively equal lows here. As you could see, last week we explosively blew through those, and this again is a weekly time frame. So if you look at like a 60-minute chart, for example, you could see the level of significance that what is that level that the equal lows have here. So let me actually change this. So I don't see anything that I want to take action on, particularly in this pair. If anything, this pair looks weak to me. I would expect continued lower prices. So if we do get some strength in dollar index, this would be a potential pair to short, because we've got some liquidity resting below the 68.50 down here, which is, you know, a nice ways away from where we're at now, about 300 pips or so. And we have closed, you know, pretty bearish below these equal lows here. So like, just look at this again on a 60-minute time frame, how clear this line is the equal lows. The 71.50 is the equal lows. So notice we initially trade into it, wick through it, come back up, bam, break through it, close below it, which confirms that, you know, quote-unquote structure is broken. If you're looking at a 60-minute time frame, market trades back up. Where does it come to? Right into this bearish order block low. The low comes in at 71.53. The high of this candle comes in at 71.54. So it traded in by 1 pip, rejected, and sold off aggressively from there. So do you guys see the importance for 50 pips? So do you guys see the importance of the higher time frame levels and using those on a lower time frame? Because you can see in here, we've got, it's just a consolidation, but once this low breaks lower than this low, we've got a confirmation. Bam, we trade up. Once we close below it, that immediately confirms we've got bearish price action here off of that key level. So initially, you didn't know if it's going to push up from here because it looked like it found support, right? Once it confirms by trading lower, making a lower low, and you've got a bearish order block, you can look to sell it once it hits the bearish order block. That's what it did here, and it sold off. And also, quick little interesting note. All right, Leslie, have a good one. And also a quick little note though, look at the bodies of the candles, how they respect the line. Do you see the bodies of the candles? Look how they close below the equal lows. So that's suggesting to me further weakness in this pair particularly. So in terms of a trading opportunity now, what you can look at is that was on an hourly basis. So that was an intraday trade setup that you could have taken based on an hourly time frame. But a little bit longer term, if you look at this, we have a big bearish candle that formed on Friday. And then we have these two up candles here between Wednesday and Thursday. So if the market pushes back up on a daily basis, we would expect them to find some level of resistance here. So again, only if dollar index continues to push up and remains bullish, which at the moment I do not see bullish dollar, I see bearish dollar. So I don't particularly like or see a setup that I want to trade in Australian dollar yet. If we do get bullishness and this pair trades back up into these bearish order blocks, I would expect weakness and I would look to sell it there and look for continued lower prices all the way below basically each daily swing low, but more importantly targeting the 68.50 level down here, which would take us below this low. Okay, so that's pretty much how I'd look to play it. See, so we've traded below, trade up, retest, sell it off into here. So that's what I'm looking at for Australian dollar. Again, I'm not a big Australian dollar trader or anything like that. I've probably taken a total of 5, maybe 6 live trades on Australian dollar USD. So I'm not someone who trades this pair frequently. So I just analyze it for you guys that do trade this pair. So that's pretty much what I'm looking at. It does look weak to me overall. So we will go ahead and mark out this bearish order block just because why not? I mean, if it's weak, they're going to hold this as resistance. So might as well have it on our chart so we could see it unfold. As you can see, I mean, each time we've got one, bam, you know. So I like having the levels on my chart beforehand and you know, watching the market trade up into it and trade lower, because this is what builds your confidence, right? If you draw these levels each week and you continuously see the market respecting them, you know, when you see the market trade up into it and it's happening real time, you have a lot more confidence and conviction in that trade because you've watched it unfold week after week after week. And yeah, you basically just trust your trade a lot more. So I'm gonna have that low on my chart. We could come back up into the bodies of the candles, which I don't mind if they do that, but you know, I'm just gonna have the low on my chart just not to clutter them up and have too many levels on there. Nzdusd USD, basically same thing. I mean, we had this ICT bullish order block mapped out. As you could see, we did not hold support there. We traded through it, traded back up, held it as resistance, which again, so key, guys. Like I want you to, you know, mark these levels out because it's so important for you to realize like the things that happen. So as you can see, once we broke below the ICT bullish order block, which should be support, once we broke through it, we traded back up, retested it as resistance, and sold off. Most people wouldn't see this as a resistance level, but you have to take into account these things when you're looking and using these tools. So Australian dollar, you know, kind of similar scenario. This is an ICT bearish order block because we technically didn't close below the low, so it's not 100% valid, I would say. And if you ask me, Australian dollar looks better in terms of the setup if it is going to be a sell based on what we got. So there isn't really anything like clear or clean I want to talk about with this. I mean, the next level of liquidity for this pair would be below this low. So, and if we get below there, then we've got these lows here. So we could throw some X's underneath them, but you know, ultimately, you know, I don't see like something I would say, oh, you know, sell it here and target here. I don't see any type of setup like that right now in this pair. But ultimately, the lower liquidity below us is resting below these lows, and And if this is a valid ICT bearish order block, we could trade back up into this level, hold it as resistance, and see it sell off from there. So we could just mark out the low again, kind of just like we did on Australian dollar. And the low comes in at 65.30. Alright, so again, we haven't necessarily closed below it, so I'd like to see them close below it if it is going to in fact be, a valid bearish order block. But ultimately, again, if dollar index does push higher, I would expect weaker foreign currency, and Australian dollar and New Zealand dollar both look relatively weak if that does happen. So we'll see what we get. Dollar CAD, interesting little note. So we've got a break in market structure on a daily basis now for this pair. So these could, what I'm kind of noticing amongst these past couple pairs is we could potentially get a bullish dollar index, and that's okay. I don't care what direction it moves. I'm comfortable selling or buying. It literally doesn't matter. It's just whatever has the clearest opportunity for me, and if I don't have the clear opportunity there, then I just wait. So notice, like I said, I don't have a clear opportunity today where I would want to trade on right now, or when the market opens. But once Monday's trading finishes, it'll give me a lot more clarity if in fact I do think dollar index will be bullish for the week. But like I said, going over these past few pairs, it's kind of giving me a little bit of mixed feelings about dollar index and making me feel like it could be a bit bullish. But in terms of the technicals, it's not technically there yet. So daily perspective on dollar CAD, we did close above these highs in here, which typical run on equal highs. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4 highs here, relatively equal. Market pushes above that. Had a little bit of a rejection after, but ultimately, this could be a valid break in market structure, and we could see higher prices. So something I am interested to see is we've got these 4 down candles here, which if you were looking at a 4-day chart, that would be one candle, one big bearish candle, which would be let me just show you, for example. So if you look at 4-day chart, which is each candle represents 4 days worth of time, you could see that we have all these candles, which lines up as an ICT bullish order block. Yeah, so it's weird when you look at other time frames. This is a 12-day chart, but you can see 12-day, this is the full down move. But anyways, regardless of that, so I'm interested to see, will we find some support here. I don't necessarily think that they will, because I just have this feeling that this is like a turtle soup and they're just going to take it lower, and that's because I think dollar index I truly believe they're going to take dollar index lower, and I could definitely be wrong. And like I said, I do not care whether they push it higher or lower, because I will trade and find a trade either way. But I just have a feeling that they're going to push dollar index lower, because there's too much liquidity resting below there, and in my opinion, too much liquidity resting above some of the foreign currency pairs. So with this pair in particular, something that I'm looking at is we could find support at this daily order block. So these series of down candles, we could find support there. So something I'm going to do is I'm going to mark out this high, which comes in at 31.03. So only 3 pips above the 31 big figure. Also an interesting little note, 31 big figure, see if we get some support there. But ultimately, yeah, I would like to see, do we find support here, or are we going to trade lower? So in my personal opinion, I think we're going to trade lower. So I know a lot of people are probably considering this a breakout, and it's made a higher high and all that, but in my opinion, it's just cleared out the liquidity and came within this ICT bearish order block. And if it's going to trade lower, it should definitely do so now. There's no clear setup or anything that I see with this. There's no clear order block or anything that I would want to take action on. Maybe on a lower time frame. Yeah, 4 hour they got this bearish order block. But again, not something I want to take action on right this, when the market opens. I'd really like to see us, you know, sell off a bit and get below this low before considering that bearish idea. But I do think that we'll get some weakness in this pair this week. Let me look at a weekly. Yeah, because if you look at a weekly, all we've done is we got a high, low, lower high, lower low, potential lower high, right? So yeah, well, let's see what we get. Let me take this level off because I don't need it on there anymore. I just want to keep the daily order block high right there. Okay, so overall, yeah, I'm thinking we're going to get weaker prices in dollar CAD, but again, it doesn't necessarily look that clear to me at the moment. But in terms of bullishness, if we find some support here, then obviously look for each swing high above the market for it to trade above in terms of targets. And I believe that is everything. Yes, that was all the majors that we go over. So for the technicals portion of the video, that is it. I'm going to stop the recording here and I will answer your questions.